Hello and welcome to BearSleuth Podcast Week 2, Dr. BearSleuth, with Patrick Lunn and
Rob.
This week we're covering possible series that we'd pitched to Marvel, the new Doctor Strange trailer, Spider-Man Homecoming, Dark Tower, a little bit on DC Rebirth, and a couple of other comic-based topics. And we're going to kick straight off with our pitches to Marvel Comics. We decided to set ourselves a challenge this week. We'd each pick 5 Marvel characters that we'd like to write into a comic and make a team. The rule was to have teams that had never happened before of characters, and we just talk a little bit about how we'd pitch them to Marvel and why we'd enjoy seeing them in the comics. So I'm going to start with Rob. Do you need to see your team or?
No.
Cool. It's all in the brain.
Yep. Here's the real challenge, isn't it? Actually remembering it after saying I do. My team is a wild bunch. Wait. Yeah, for my team, leading the team, you have Storm.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have the adorable Kitty Pryde.
Shadowcat.
Yep. Again, just trying to remember him. Superior Spider-Man, because I just love Superior Spider-Man. And
Okay.
every team needs a Spider-Man, in my opinion. No one else will agree with that statement. Wolverine and Phantom X,
Yep.
who provide the muscle and probably would get booted out of the team very quickly.
Or Phantom X.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you have Old Man Logan now? Because we don't really have a Wolverine, or would you go with X-23?
Doesn't really make a difference to me. Go with Old Man Logan.
Cool.
He can have some old man wisdom.
So who would you have as the villain of your series?
Shit, that is a very good question. I don't know. I didn't even consider that.
Well, I guess
Cool.
if you're having quite an X-Men team, then the obvious choices are kind of like you got your Magneto and your Apocalypse and all that.
Yeah, well, I'll just go with Mr. Sinister.
That would make sense with Dr. Octopus's Superior Spider-Man kind of background.
And also, I don't know, it's not like an insane threat level, is it?
Yeah,
So,
true.
I'm sure there was someone else I was going to pick, but I can't remember who.
Fair enough. Any particular story moments you'd want to see between that team? Any clashing characters?
That's the thing, I think most of them are going to clash. Superior Spider-Man's going to clash with everyone. But I'd like him to be the kind of middle ground, because in my mind you have Wolverine and Phantom X being the kind of characters that were like, F it, let's just go kill this guy.
Yeah.
You got Storm and Shadowcat being the ones to be, we don't have to kill them.
More democratic and
Yeah.
kind of...
And you've got Ock in the middle just walking the line, I guess. Like, one minute he can see it from their point of view and is like, you know what, yeah, okay. And then the next minute he's like, actually it makes more sense if I just kill them.
Interesting.
So...
would you set this within the Superior Spider-Man timeline, or would you have Superior come back?
I would force Superior Spider-Man to come back.
Kicking, screaming.
Yeah, I don't care how it would be done, it would just be done. Clones, I don't know.
That's normally the Spider-Man way.
Yeah.
Cool. So for my team, I want to bring back the Marvel Knights, because it's been a long time since we've had a good Marvel Knights series. I think there was one back in the early 2000s, but we're getting on to about 10 years, so I really want to bring them back. So I'm going to have leading the team, Luke Cage. Bringing up the rear, Miles Morales, Spider-Man, because I do agree with you, every team needs a Spider-Man, especially the Marvel Knights. Just works for me so much better with Spider-Man. I'd love to see Miles on the team. My third choice is Misty Knight. Mostly to bring a bit of girl power to the team, but also she's got a lot of detective kind of skills, which I think would be an interesting dynamic. Then I have Daredevil, because he's my favourite character, but also ideally I'd want to see some input from Bendis on this book, and I think having Miles and Daredevil come together would just be like beautiful and would make that guy cry. And then my heavy hitter on the team and my wild card is Ghost Rider. And essentially, the villain for my series would be Blackheart, who's a Ghost Rider villain, and the Hand working together, because the Hand have been known to work with demons before. And basically what I'd do is have the team kind of like, Ghost Rider is going at Blackheart normally, but he's kind of he's being baited, and have the rest of the team trying to kind of, almost like the Avengers working with Hulk, where they're trying to funnel the destruction in the right sort of path. And that would kind of be my first arc, I guess.
Nice. You've put a lot more thought into it.
Cool moments I'd like to see for the team would be like, I'd really like to see Miles and Luke Cage. I think that Luke could be a really good mentor figure for Miles. Not just the whole like black superhero thing, but also just, I think they both work at street level, and Luke can show a lot more. While Miles has learnt a lot from Peter about how to kind of use humour and kind of keep like confidence in battle, Luke Cage can show you how to be a hero without even having to wear a mask. Like, that's his whole thing. And Misty Knight, very much the same sort of characters. So I think they would be a really interesting, bring a really interesting dynamic to Miles. And if we got Luke Cage and Jessica Jones can come in, which again, Bendis putting Jessica Jones, Miles Morales, and Daredevil together will just, the guy's happy for the rest of the year. Okay, so moving on to the next point on the agenda. Oh, what do you think of my choice?
Yeah, I can dig it.
Cool.
Phil Miles is a bit out of place because he's like 15, or however old he is.
Yeah.
So it'd be like everyone else is beating people to a bloody pulp, and Miles is just there like, oh my god,
guys. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I was hoping. I kind of like the idea of them all being, they're all quite gritty characters, while he's quite innocent. But then, like you say, he could feel kind of out of place at the same time. I really liked your team picks. Quite X-Men heavy, but I don't think that's a bad thing at all, because the X-Men need a lot more love.
Yeah, fuck the Inhumans.
and any way to get Superior Spider-Man back into comics, I'm all for, really.
Good.
Would you have any ideal writer or artist that you'd like to see with the team?
Writer. Fuck it. Jeff Lemire writes it.
He's writing everything at the moment.
Except he's writing it with me, and that's just to make sure that I do an alright job.
Fair enough.
The art.
His Moon Knight series came out this week, looking pretty good.
Nice.
Yeah.
I will check that out one day. Art. Oh.
You mentioned Bagley before?
I'd do Bagley if I was doing a solo Spider-Man series myself.
Okay.
But for this, I'd probably go with the fella who did the art in Remender's X-Force run.
Oh yeah, I don't know that's his name, no. But again, a really, really good choice. He is somewhere on the bookcase, but
we can't be asked to find him.
No, not at all. But yes, I'm sure he did a fantastic job across X-Force, really worth checking out. And I'm sure he'd be a good fit for the team as well. I'd go with Alex Maleev on my book.
You see, I was going to pick that, but I knew you were going to. So I thought, nah, we can't pick the same guy.
He's perfect for kind of like gritty fighting kind of stuff. Okay, now moving on to our second topic. The Doctor Strange trailer hit midnight 2 days ago. It will be by the time this goes up. Midnight yesterday for us. Thoughts? Immediate thoughts?
I have no strong thoughts one way or the other.
I really enjoyed the trailer. I think it's a good callback to kind of early Silver Age Doctor Strange kind of comic stuff, like the Jack Kirby run on the stuff that Jonathan Ross goes on every talk show to do comics about and just kind of spaffs all over.
Steve Ditko,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve Ditko.
Yeah.
Who did I say?
Might have had some work on it at some point, but I think Steve Ditko created Doctor Strange. Don't quote me on that.
Okay.
Like, I'm basing
'Cause
off my Ditko knowledge.
I was going off like Kirby New Gods and stuff,
Fair
I
enough.
guess, but I don't know if he worked directly on Strange, but it's that kind of, it's the bright 60s psychedelia. The equivalent now being kind of Inception-esque, no, like the cathedral that's like falling in on itself,
Yeah.
and the city that's bending and warping into more cities and stuff. But it's great. It's great to actually see them being able to put that to film, and I didn't think that was possible. That being said, I don't think it had as much of a wow factor as any of the trailers we've seen for the DC films this year, or even any of the trailers that we've seen for the Civil War film this year. But it is a preliminary trailer, so I maybe don't judge it too harshly, I guess.
I wouldn't.
What do you think of Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One?
Again, no strong thoughts. Like, I don't know enough about Doctor Strange to really comment on it.
Fair enough.
All I know is, like, everything I've seen him in, he's, a guest kind of appearance in, like, most of the Spider-Man stuff I've read. And usually he's just sat there being like, oh yeah, you should probably do this.
Yeah.
And then Peter's like, okay, and then does the opposite.
And then he kind of like flicks him and puts him into his astral form every so
Yeah.
often.
But beyond that, I don't really have any familiarity.
Fair enough. So I'll just run through a couple of the Doctor Strange points that I've got noted down. Just quickly talking about Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One. They've obviously gender swapped the role. I think she's really cool in the role. The Ancient One classically wears like all purple robes, and I think putting her in the white gives her more like a kind of angelic, or like at least force of good feel to her. When really she's kind of more morally grey, which might be interesting if they play upon that. We heard a little bit of. I'm gonna have a go at this name, but I'm not. It's a tough one, but Chiwetel Ejiofor as Baron Mordo, also in 12 Years a Slave as the as the main character. He sounded really good in the role. Really interested in his Mordo because he seems almost like he's a companion to Doctor Strange. Although that's kind of how the partnership started, it seems to continue further along into the film, and then obviously I think they're going to diverge towards the end. We didn't see anything of Benedict Wong, who's going to be playing Wong, Doctor Strange's manservant and kind of assistant butler, whatever you want to call him. Didn't see him yet. Really hopeful to see a bit more of Wong because he's quite a fan favourite character. Definitely one of my favourite characters. And then seeing Benedict Cumberbatch in the trailer, it's interesting that he's managed to shake a little bit of his accent and move towards what I would consider to be more of an American accent, I guess. It distances him a little bit from Sherlock, at least, which was a lot of people's worry, because most characters Benedict Cumberbatch has played have sounded a lot like that Sherlock kind of aloof, hoity-toity British accent. But he seems to dispense with that. Whether he'll get that back once he becomes more Doctor Strange-esque, I don't know. But yeah, I think the trailer was probably more for the Doctor Strange fans out there than anyone else. I can understand why people who are less familiar with Doctor Strange might be a little more distant from it. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Not really.
Fair enough. Okay, well this one I know that you have quite a bit to say on. So we also found out with the Doctor Strange movie trailer release, we found the title of the next Spider-Man film. 2017 Spider-Man will be called Spider-Man Homecoming. Thoughts, Rob?
It got my spidey sense tingling, that's for sure. But no, the first thing that made me think of was the JMS run, Coming Home.
Yep.
Which, Coming Home, Homecoming.
Not too far away.
They're kind of the same word, just the way around. But it made me think of that, and it made me wonder if they're going to take some influence from that. Maybe. Doubt it, but a guy can dream. But there's already a rumor going around that the villain of the film is going to be Vulture.
Okay, that's interesting because he's not the most threatening of the villains out there.
No. But
Adrian Toomes.
But I don't know. It'd be nice just to see some. You've got 50 plus years of like history of Spider-Man to like draw upon, like whether it's story, characters, blah blah blah. And I mean, I know like people were pissed off when Green Goblin was used for Amazing Spider-Man 2 after we had the whole Goblin build up and stuff in the first in Sam Raimi's 3.
Yeah.
So in that respect, it's good that they're using a villain that we haven't seen yet.
Agreed.
But I don't know, like while I'm not opposed at all to Vulture, I feel you could pick someone more threatening.
I mean, I'm trying to run through their options really for someone more threatening. You could have Scorpion.
I'd personally like to see Scorpion, like...
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, you could do Scorpion and Venom and then go down the Matt Gargan Venom route if we're heading towards like Thunderbolts TV series and stuff. Just like as a possibility. I'd like to see Sandman come back. To me, he's a really like iconic villain, I guess. Part of me would love Vincent D'Onofrio Kingpin. Everything I do,
That'd be cool.
I do for Spider-Man. But jumping back a little bit to Spider-Man Coming Home. I wanted to ask what you'd think of Ezekiel or Morlun appearing in this film, and whether or not you think it should happen.
I would love that. I mean, I think I'd like both those characters to appear if they were adapting, like, that storyline a bit more, as in like Peter Parker's age. If he was in his like mid to late 20s working at Midtown High as a teacher, then yeah, that would be insane. And I feel at the moment I know they're sticking with Peter Parker being a little teenager. Don't know why, but yeah, like I don't know, Ezekiel. Yeah, I reckon they'd be able to pull off fine, but given how brutal, for lack of a better word, Morlun is,
yeah,
I think they probably shouldn't use him. Because I mean, if you think of the other, like, holy shit, that fight. That's the first time I was reading Spider-Man and thought I was going to throw up, and it's also the only time.
Wow.
Like, the beating he gives Peter Parker was just ridiculous.
I've got to say, what I would love to see, and I know we won't see it because we're of the Spider-Man that we're getting. It would be fantastic to have, the scene in the Amazing Spider-Man Civil War comic where he meets the younger Peter, and he's at Midtown High, and he goes out to the track, and there's like a younger version of himself sitting on the bench, and he's just like, "What do you have to complain about?" kind of thing. And he properly has a go at the older Peter for like running when he's not, he's powerful and strong and such. That would just be like a lovely little like scene that you could work in if they were going for that older line.
I know I've bored you to death with this before, but in my head, for like, I don't know, like the appearance in Civil War Homecoming film, I would love it if it was Andrew Garfield. Like, just in my head, everything, like, you could squeeze the perfect Spider-Man film. Like,
would you keep his previous continuity?
To be honest, I think they could easily make it
work. I do think that they were pretty hasty on that reboot button, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard lots of different reasons why, the most common being Andrew Garfield had flu and jet lag and refused to go straight from his flight to a meeting.
Yeah.
And then they fired him there and then. Which might not be true, but still, if it is, it's a bit ridiculous. Like,
I was kind of wondering whether or not, if it's called Spider-Man Homecoming, if it'll revolve around a homecoming dance and we'll get more of a high school Tom Holland being like Peter at high school and graduating.
Could be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I want him to quite quickly move away from high school Peter Parker.
Yeah, he wasn't really in high school that long, which is why it bothers me that they keep trying to make it focus on high school.
Both the Raimi films and Andrew Garfield ones, just it felt too much there, and it would feel way too much now, I feel.
Yeah, at least in like the first Sam Raimi film, he was, he finished school and shit within the first 45 minutes of the film.
Yeah.
maybe a bit less, and like.
Yeah,
I
because
don't
he
know,
was at
like,
the bugle by the end, wasn't
isn't the bugle like halfway through?
he? Mm.
Like, I think after Uncle Ben died, it showed like the whole like graduation thing with their throwing their hats up in the air, be like, hey.
Oh wow,
And
that's really early in then.
yeah, and like Norman Osborn walks up to him and is like, I know you've had a lot of tragedy in your life. Or Harry just minces off and stalks Mary Jane for a bit. But I mean, like even in Amazing Spider-Man, I thought it was fine because that whole film was. I was going to say at school, but it wasn't. But you know what I mean? Like you have the battle at school, which mirrors the first fight of Green Goblin and Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah, definitely.
Panel for panel as well, shot for shot. It's it is beautiful. But and then like the start of the second one is them graduating.
Yeah.
So stop putting him back in school. Rehire Andrew Garfield and just give me the Spider-Man that I want.
If it was Andrew Garfield, would you have him going back as a teacher?
Definitely. Like, I mean, I know there'd be people complaining that, oh, he's not the bugle and blah blah. And fuck you. Just have him go back to Midtown High as a teacher, because that's all I want to see. No one else gives a shit what I think. But that's it. I would die happy after that. I'd walk out the cinema after seeing it and probably just keel over.
Fair enough. I want to talk a little bit about what you thought of Tom Holland in the role.
I've not seen him yet.
Of course, just from like the snippets, like the little snippets that we have seen, and do you think he's a good fitting Spider-Man? Do you think he looks all right, at least?
Sure.
Okay, good. Moving on. So Spider-Man: Homecoming? Do you think it should have any connection to the Avengers? Because I'm pretty sure they're going to try and get someone in there.
Because I imagine.
Because Marvel and Fox are still working joint on it.
Marvel and Sony.
Marvel and Sony are still working joint on it.
Yeah, I mean, seeing as the whole deal was that Sony do the solo films, but they can include, cameo from like the MCU stuff. Of course, it'd be really stupid just not to even use that. So I reckon they will have some lame ass Avenger appear.
Anyone that you particularly think would be good with Spidey?
I personally want to like Cap and Spidey.
That'd be pretty cool. I'd be pretty up for that. I mean, I get the feeling that we're going to get a lot of Tony and Spidey in Civil War.
Oh yeah, that's not surprising.
Yeah. So I think if they're going to do that, then it'd be nice to see the flip side. Personally, I wouldn't mind Hawkeye and Spider-Man. A little bit of that would be quite interesting. I think Thor and Hulk, they're going to be off-world, so unlikely that they'll turn up. And then I wouldn't really like any of the new Avengers team, apart from Cap. Or Widow could show up, but she just keeps becoming the B-list character that shows up in everything. And I don't really want her to. I want her to get her own film instead of just showing up a lot. It'd be interesting to have Nick Fury and go down the kind of the Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah, actually, I like that as well. Like just the whole. Oh, I can't remember when he gives him the speech. In my head, it's like when when the whole Venom stuff happens.
Yeah.
And the Venom thing is resolved, and you've got Nick Fury with Peter Parker just being like, "Oh yeah, like, don't do this now," kind of thing. Wait till you're older because you're going to be the best of us, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like, I know, just seeing that. Like, it doesn't have to be Nick Fury saying it to him. It can be Cap. It can be
seeing Cap turning to Peter and being like, "You're going to be the best of us," would be.
Like, that would be incredible. That would.
Chills.
I'd be there just like, tear in my eye and everything, while sat in my Spider-Man costume.
You sat in a Spider-Man costume crying is the perfect way to end our Spider-Man Homecoming section.
Brilliant.
So, moving on. Big news, the Dark Tower film started shooting this week. We've got Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba appearing in the film. And I think it's fair to say, I mean, I've only read, I'm a little way into the Gunslinger, I'm trying to get more into it. I really need to get more into reading my Stephen King stuff. But Rob's been a big fan of Dark Tower a long time, and I just really wanted to kind of get your impressions on the casting of Idris and McConaughey, and just if you think it's going in the right direction.
The casting has got me really excited. Like, I can easily envision Idris Elba as Roland. I can, pardon me, imagine Matthew McConaughey as the Man in Black.
Mm-hmm.
That's all fine and dandy. That's killer. That's great casting right there. But what I see going around online is that the release date at the moment is still scheduled to be like really early next year.
Wow, that's
So,
not much time.
I mean, seeing as they've only released like those two casts, I don't even know if they've announced who's directing it yet.
I assume if they've gone to filming, there must be a director attached.
I'd assume it's Ron Howard because he's been attached to like the Dark Tower film project for about 10 years,
yeah,
maybe more. But I've not really followed much of the news since like 2011
mm-hmm.
because it's all just a kind of, it'll pop up every now and then being like, oh yeah, Dark Tower has gone into production, Ron Howard says this, and then you're just like, okay, great, but they've been saying this now for about, at that point, 6 years.
Mm.
And here we are X amount of time later where we find, I mean, the fact that we've got like Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey cast as these two characters
Yep.
is a bigger indication that the project's moving forward than anything else we've had.
Well, hearing it moving to production as well is great news.
I mean, I think they're definitely going to change the release date because having everything hammered out in 9 months for release is ridiculous.
Yeah. That would just be insane.
It would be like, you know, I mean, my favourite comment I saw on that was, I can't remember what it was now, but yeah, what kind of like company like only allows 9 months to do this before release? And the top comment was just a company that doesn't care if it makes a good film.
Yeah, and the thing is that I think we both know that the Dark Tower series deserves.
It does.
Its due. Like, this isn't a film that should just be made. This is a film that should be made to be enjoyed.
Yeah, I mean that's another thing. If it's Ron Howard involved in it, I mean even if he's involved in it in some kind of way,
executive producer or yeah,
he clearly does care about the work. And from if Stephen King's tweets are anything to go by as well, then I don't know. I don't think there's anything to worry about.
I feel as well like that King is quite an author creator and he's not gonna let them fuck it about too much. I'd hope.
I don't think he'd let anyone fuck up the Dark Tower.
Well, it's one of his babies really. Like he's really close to his heart.
Yeah, it's like his first love or some shit. I don't know.
Cool. So moving on.
Yeah.
The next thing I was going to talk about, just a little bit. I meant to cover it in the last show, but a couple of weeks ago, DC announced their Rebirth event. I'm not going to go right through the line of comics because we'd be here all day, and I think I'd bore Rob to death. But just a couple of highlights. Basically, the Rebirth event is an event where they're going to essentially do another reboot along the lines of the New 52, but they're going to be, from my understanding, going back to the main canonical DC universe, but with some slight changes. So it's in the line of Flash Rebirth and Green Lantern Rebirth, which Jeff Johns worked on both, in which he slightly altered the characters' backstories to give them more depth and more layering, to allow for greater stories and for characters that felt more appropriate for a 21st century audience. Essentially, they're going to try and go through and do this for all the DC characters, with most characters we know getting rather large edits to their backstories. Now, the interesting thing about the Rebirth lineup is that from a real world perspective, it's a downsizing of DC. The line of comics is reducing. The paper quality is reducing. The number of pages that are being produced is reducing. The number of advertisements is increasing. However, the price of comics themselves is going to decrease. We're actually going to get the lowest price for an issue that both me and Rob have seen in our entire lifetimes, which is amazing and might encourage a lot more people to get into DC Comics over Marvel, the more expensive choice. Marvel relying more on the fact that they are more popular at the moment. Personally, I feel that this shows a little bit that DC are suffering to a degree. It's no secret that Image Comics are starting to absorb a large chunk of the market, and that chunk is coming away from DC Comics primarily. I mean, Marvel's losing some of its share, and a lot of the smaller companies losing some of its stake. But the primary chunk is coming from DC. So I feel like this is a little bit to combat that. Going across to the actual releases, there's loads of different releases that I got really excited about, but the ones that I really want to talk about and just get Rob's impression on really quickly is Tom King, who has been working on the Vision series, is going to be now taking over the main Batman series, taking over from Snyder's run, which I think is a really tough job. I don't know who the artist is on his run, but would that interest you? Do you think Snyder's run's over?
I don't know. So he's doing the other Batman book, isn't he?
Yeah, he's going to be doing an all-star Batman book.
Batman, with John Romita Jr.
For the first run, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited for that because it's the only one I can remember off the top of my head at the moment.
Fair enough.
But no, I've not read any of the Vision series.
Okay.
But from what you've told me about it, it excites me.
The Vision series is a comic book series, a main title Marvel comic book series that reads like an indie comic book, and it's marrying together the superhero concept with the new independent techniques that are rising in the Western comic book market, which for me is really interesting, and to see him going all the way up to writing Batman so quickly as well. He's a really young writer, Tom King. It's amazing that he's climbed to this point so quickly. I'm really excited. It's a little bit like Snyder. Snyder rose to the ranks really, really quickly, and it's great to see another writer doing that, and hopefully that'll be the same outcome. Another thing I wanted to get your ideas on, I don't know who's writing or doing the art on, but we're going to get a Detective Comics series that's going to have the entire...
Is that the one with, sorry to interrupt, is that the one with, I keep forgetting his name, the guy who's writing Batman and TMNT?
James Tynion?
Yeah.
I think so.
Because I know he's doing a Batman book.
Don't quote me on that.
But I don't know if it's that one or if there's another.
But it's the entire Bat family. Everyone is involved, even including some villains, Clayface most notably on the team, and it's about Batman and Batwoman leading the Gothamites, I guess, together as a force. And would that interest you?
Yeah.
Cool. And the final one that I want to talk about quickly is that we're getting Trinity back. And do you think... What are your thoughts on that?
Depends who's writing it.
Again, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely pick it up.
Cool.
Can't really expand beyond that, really.
This is why I think maybe I just want to skim over Rebirth, because I think there's so much to get into there that we could do a whole podcast just on Rebirth and going through it. So I'm going to move on. And conversely to DC making these moves that personally I see and other people see as them showing a little bit of weakness, Batman issue 50, the second to last issue of Snyder's run on Batman, was the top selling comic of March, which is the first for, I want to say the first this time this year that DC have come out on top over Marvel.
Pretty sure it is from what I remember looking at anyway.
Mm-hmm. I read Batman issue 50, I don't know if you did.
No, I'm nowhere near up to date.
Okay. Basically, it saw, spoiler alert, it saw Bruce Wayne coming back out of amnesia to put on a giant mecha bat suit and fight on an almost Godzilla scale against a new villain over Gotham, while Commissioner Gordon, leading an army of Bat Bunny costumes, went to war with a bunch of possessed Gothamites in what was probably like the biggest battle I've ever seen in a Batman comic.
Nice.
Yeah.
It sounds ridiculously insane.
It's just like Snyder's just dialed it up to 1,000. It's insane. I'm really interested to see what he does for his final issue. how do you feel about the Snyder run, because it's coming to an end? Like,
It's been a weird one because a lot of the new 52 stuff I haven't really been a fan of since everything like launched in 2011. I think the only title I followed consistently at the time was Justice League Dark,
mhm,
and I bought Court of Owls in whenever we finished first year, like 2 years ago.
around 2 years ago, so about 2014.
Yeah, and I bought that because at the time you kept going on about it, and so did like one of our friends. So I bought it based on that, and I struggled with it.
Fair enough.
And I didn't think I finished it until the summer just gone, like summer last year.
But so would you say that you're not as much of a fan of the Snyder run as others?
Probably not, but it's definitely something that's taken its time with me, because I finished Court of Owls, like I said, back in probably September last year,
Mhm.
and then straight away went into the following one.
City of Owls.
Yeah. And again, that's partly because the first one just ended on a cliffhanger, and I was a bit like, well, now I have to buy the second one. And I ended up enjoying both. Like, both of those together, I ended up enjoying in the end. Death of the Family, I liked the end, but the rest of it I don't care for.
I think
pick it up again at some point.
Death of the Family for me, and I think I've talked to you about this before, Rob, but Death of the Family is enhanced a lot by the tie-in books. While the main book feels a little bit weak because it's relying on you collecting all the tie-in books for it.
That's fair. Well, it's not really fair. But and I really enjoyed 0 Year. Like part 1 more than part 2, but both I really enjoyed.
I enjoyed part 2 only because we got a good Riddler story for once, because he's so underserved nowadays, because I feel like Joker's been moved more into Riddler's territory.
That I agree with.
Over recent years, so it's nice to see him out there. Yeah, so moving on from that, Black Panther issue 1 came out last week. Just very quickly cover it and just give some of my thoughts, because I didn't get a chance to write it into my normal Friday column. Basically, Black Panther issue 1, it feels like it should have been a much bigger book than it was. Like, the writer on it, I'm not entirely sure on the name again, but the writer on it is a New York Times specialist on culture. I think he's got a specialty with African culture of some sort, and yet he's kind of been laboured with dealing with a lot of the Black Panther continuity, going right back for the last 5 years. Because the problem is that there hasn't been a Black Panther series and since the Black Panther and Storm stuff back in the kind of Civil War era. So you are really talking like almost best part of a decade ago. So this writer has been kind of locked into having to deal with a lot of Black Panther issues and story issues, while also trying to plant his new story. And so the first issue feels quite clumsy, and I don't want people who read it to drop the series after the first issue, because Black Panther deserves to have a book, and I'm sure that once these kind of story issues get dealt with and we can just get to the main story, it's gonna pick up a lot. So I just want to kind of encourage people to follow that and to keep going with that. And finally, Rob, breaking news today, we are going to get a Jessica Jones comic series.
Nice.
What are your thoughts on that?
I don't really care. Like, I'm sure it'll be good, because I know that that's Bendis' trophy thing.
Yeah, it's his go-to.
I don't know what I mean by that, but it's his Sandman, I guess.
Yeah.
Like how Neil Gaiman's like, oh, no one else better touch Sandman because it's mine. That's how I see Bendis with Jessica Jones. Like, no one else.
It was him who actually unofficially confirmed.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's understandable then.
I'm really happy to see Bendis throwing Jessica back out again. Apparently, we're going to get some big changes to the character. I'm wondering whether or not we'll get a Luke Cage Jessica Jones divorce, which would make me sad, because they're my favourite comic couple. But there we go. I'm really psyched for it, and I'm sure I'll be picking it up. It's going to happen post Civil War 2, so you're talking tail end of this year. So it's a long while off, but
I'll read it after. I'll read your copy.
and yeah, that's everything I've got on my topic board. Is there anything you want to bring up?
Not really.
Cool.
Can't really think of anything at the moment.
Anything you're reading this week?
I still need to finish Witches by Scott Snyder.
Nice.
Enjoying that. The 4 or 5 pages I've read so far.
I don't know if we're going to get another volume of that.
He mentioned on ye old Twitter the other day that his contract with DC doesn't affect like the stuff he puts out on whatever one that is Image.
Yeah, I watched his Image.
So he's pretty much confirmed. I'm sure I can't even remember what the tweet said exactly, but it was confirming a second volume, like probably towards the end of this year, early next.
That'd be great to see. I really enjoyed Witch when I read it. It's been quite some time, but it's a great comic. Really worth your time. I'm working my way through Dragon Ball at the moment. Just finished the 6th volume of Dragon Ball. Halfway through the Red Ribbon Saga. Really enjoying myself. I've not been a huge Dragon Ball fan at any point in my life really, but I got into the Team 4-star Dragon Ball Abridged run through Rob. Fantastic abridged series, abridged redub. Really, really worth. If you're only going to interact with Dragon Ball in one way, that's the best way to kind of start there. You get even more out of it if you've read the comics and you've read everything else, but it gets you through a lot easier than just jumping into the anime, which is a lot tougher and harder going. But yeah, so I watched the Team 4-star videos, and I wanted to get more into Dragon Ball, so I bought a second-hand copy of the Dragon Ball series, and yeah, I'm stuck in. I'm away, and it's great. Akira Toriyama's really like the only thing that's surprising about it is that the Dragon Ball series was obviously made in a slightly different time, and it has slightly more racy tones, shall we say?
Yeah.
Than more recent animes and mangas. But apart from that, it's a really good read, and I highly recommend it. And I think that about wraps up the show.
Yeah.
So until next time, when I don't know what we'll be covering next time.
We'll figure it out next time.
Fair enough. Until next time, keep sleuthing.